everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of another Star Wars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Melissa.
And I'm Matt.
So this is really exciting because I never thought that I would actually start out doing a Star Wars podcast, like ever. I mean, for those of you who already know me, I'm Melty Arts on my social media, and I think it's fair to say that I'm a pretty big dork. But I never actually thought that we would start a Star Wars podcast, or that I would actually like be a part of a Star Wars podcast. So how did this come about? Do you want to start by explaining it, Matt? Because it did kind of start with your own podcast. What the heck?
Yeah, sure. So I have another show. If you guys want to check it out, it's called What the Heck, WTH Pod on Instagram. And I've been doing it for a couple years, and it's, just talks about current events, random stuff going on. It's a lot of ranting and raving about stupid things. And I'll cover different topics sometimes on different shows, like just take a whole show to cover one specific topic. And one of the episodes I did was Star Wars, because I love Star Wars. And Melissa does too. Like, we're a dorky family. So we did an episode on Star Wars one day. And afterwards, we were talking about it. And Melissa's just like, yo, this would be fun if we did a whole show about this. And I'm like, that's actually not a bad idea, because it was right after all these new shows got announced. And it's like, okay, well, there's not any shortage of content coming out. So
yeah,
it'll give us a good starting point. But I mean, I think you and I are both big fans, so it just makes sense. And obviously we're siblings. So
yeah, which leads me into the next thing. So the shows that were announced that are coming out, there's like what, 10 of them, like roughly 10. There's Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Bad Batch, Lando, the Acolyte, and then like a couple of others thrown in there that I just didn't pay attention to because I was so hyper focused on like
the droid
main
show.
Three.
Yeah, there's a bunch of ones that I don't really care about, but there's a lot of good ones that I really do care about. So I think too is like Mandalorian. Obviously, they're not doing a new season for a while, but like you and I would talk about those episodes like every week after they happen.
Oh yeah, especially when they started bringing in all the major characters. It was like texting back and forth constant. Oh my god, I can't believe they brought in so-and-so. Oh my god, I can't believe they brought in. No, but I guess that leads me into probably just like the basics of our Star Wars nerddumb, if you will. Yeah. So, what was your first exposure to Star Wars? Like, what's your first memory of it? And what do you think? And then what's your favorite Star Wars movie? So what was your first, let's just start there. Like, what was your first exposure to it? Do you have like a specific memory? Or
I don't know. I don't think I have a super specific memory of like the first time I saw it. I remember loving it as a kid. And I remember Mike and Dave were really into it, our older brothers. But I think first memory was like Dad had it on or something on a Saturday when we were like really little. Dad used to just have on random movies like in the background. It's like an old Jackie Chan movie or like old funny comedy or Star Trek, and then I think Star Wars was one of them. And I was excited to watch it. Obviously, it's like the first like big kid movie I really like watched when I was a kid. It's like, oh, it's sci-fi. It's cool. There's fighting. Like, I feel like it's a grown-up type of movie. So I vaguely remember watching A New Hope for the first time. And then obviously my older brothers were into it. So we started buying tons of Star Wars characters, that sort of thing. I think it's how most little boys get involved in it. You see it when you're really little and you just kind of you become obsessed with it. And for some people the obsession goes away, for others it doesn't really. And I'd say I'm still a bit of a dork when it comes to Star Wars. The first one, my favorite movie is tough. I love A New Hope just because it's the first one. I know it's unpopular. Everyone's like, oh, Empire Strikes Back's the best. But I like A New Hope a lot because it sets up the whole world, and it's like, it's not as exciting as some of the other movies, but it does a really good job of setting up the story, which I think is great. But I also love Revenge of the Sith. I think Revenge of the Sith, I saw that 3 or 4 times in theaters, including on opening day. And I just love the darkness of it. Like, it was just, I remember watching it and being like, whoa, this was dark for a Star Wars movie. And I was like, I don't know, 13 or something at the time, 12 or 13. But, that's the only Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters that I really, really loved. But yeah, I'd say those are my 2 favorite. Did you have another question? I forget.
Oh, no, it's totally fine. Like I actually have like a whole layout here. Like I actually came prepared. But no, the third question was, who is your favorite character? Like if you had to pick
character
above everybody else. Like
yeah, I'd say it's probably Qui-Gon.
That's a great pick.
Even though the movie he's in is terrible, I watched it the other day, by the way. And it's so bad. The first movie, like there's elements of it that are decent, but it's terrible. But he's so good. Like Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon is awesome. I've always loved him. I always thought it was a shame he died so early on in those prequels because he's such a awesome character. And it's a random weird one, but I don't know. I love him. I think he's great. And when I got to see him again in Clone Wars, in like that weird dream place, and what is it?
Yeah. The Mortis arc. Yeah.
That was cool. And then I guess I like Darth Maul a lot too. So Phantom Menace has a lot of good characters, but also like Obi-Wan's great. I'm sure there's some other weird, obscure characters that I'm missing. But yeah, I'd say Qui-Gon's probably my favorite. What about you?
So like first like exposure to Star Wars, actually it was The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
So that movie came out like right when I was like 5, I think I was 5 years old when that movie came out, 4 or 5 years old. And that movie was always on. Like that was the Star Wars movie that was on. And then the prequel era was taking off at that time. So I'd say my first exposure to Star Wars was Phantom Menace. And I remember being terrified of Darth Maul as a kid. Like I just hated him. He was so scary. Loved Obi-Wan because young Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor.
It's a total hunk.
Yeah, he's pretty hunky. He's very hunky. But that was my first exposure to Star Wars. And then the prequels were always playing on TV. I remember when Revenge of the Sith came out because I asked Dad if I could go see it. And he said, no, it's too violent. And I thought he was being ridiculous because I'm like, how could a Star Wars movie be violent? And then when it went to DVD and we bought it and like we played it on the TV for the first time and it's just Anakin like burning in lava after Obi-Wan's just cut all of his limbs off. You're like,
it's graphic.
Okay, that's
you're like, I understand why I couldn't go. I mean, for a Star Wars movie, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that it was actually originally supposed to be rated R.
That's true.
Scenes. And I remember when that was coming out, when the movie was like actually coming out and there was articles about it and stuff. I remember reading it. I don't know where I was reading this.
I remember.
But I remember seeing that and being like, if a Star Wars movie is rated R, first of all, you're losing a big audience base. But second of all, that means it's going to be super violent. But it wasn't, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, like after you see it, you're like, I get why maybe
I didn't want me to go to see this.
Yeah, it's a little much.
It is, and it's just so awful after you see this. Like, oh, like they're friends, they're super close. And by the way, I'm going to leave you burning on this molten lava planet. And bye, I'm going to raise your. Which leads me into the next thing. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite film.
Yeah,
because of how dark it is, and I don't know what it is that sucks me into that story. And it's probably because Clone Wars then came after, and it really just hooked me on the whole Star Wars universe. But I just like how dark Revenge of the Sith is, but I like that it ends with like, hey, not everything's going to go to hell. Like, it's okay. Things are still going to turn
because
out
what happens. You know what happens.
Right.
It's not like a total loss. But you knew it was going to be dark going into the movie. You're like, oh, it's going to be a bit rough. Because you have an idea of you've seen the other 3 movies after that. So totally makes sense. But yeah, it's a great movie. I think a lot of people, like most Star Wars, like older Star Wars fans who grew up in the 70s and 80s, like they're probably going to say Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, or New Hope. I mean, I do really like those movies, by the way. They're great. And they're such easy watching. Like Revenge of the Sith is a bit more of like a blockbustery type of thing. Like New Hope is, but it's just like easy, pretty vanilla watching. Revenge of the Sith, you have to pay attention more. It's a little bit more like they involve the Senate and all these, the plot is just a little bit more involved. You have to kind of pay attention to exactly what happened.
Right.
Whereas New Hope is just like, you can kind of come in anywhere and it's easy to, follow along.
Yeah. It's basically, it's the difference between thinking and then not having to think.
Yeah.
Like you have the critical thinking of what's actually going on in Revenge of the Sith. They're like, okay, why is all this falling apart? And then there's like a New Hope. It's like, oh, wizards, and you're going to train to be one of these wizards. And
Yeah, and it's kind of vague. Like it's not. They didn't try to make it too complex, which I think that was one of the bigger problems with the prequels was they got a little too in depth with some of the political stuff, and the reading in between the lines type of thing. So you have to like really pay attention to understand the intricacies of what the plot actually is and why certain characters matter and why certain characters don't. And like when I was a kid, I remember watching. I was young when Phantom Menace came out. I was 8 when it came out, almost 8, 7 or 8, and I watched it, and I remember thinking like, I didn't really know what the plot of the movie was. I knew it was like there was some stuff going on, but I was a little kid. You don't really care about like the political aspect to it. The Trade Federation and all that stuff. I just wanted to see guys fight, right? That's what you want to do. And when I was a kid and watched A New Hope, I remember I'm like, all right, this is pretty simple to watch. Just this kid who wants to get off this planet, and then there's this bad evil character, and then there's Han Solo, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi fights the guy and dies, and like it's very straightforward. It's the same thing with Empire Strikes Back. It's like, all right. You know, the monumental moment, Luke, I'm your father. It's like, okay. By the way, spoiler alert. Sorry if you haven't seen Empire Strikes Back.
For all you Star Wars fans watching another Star Wars podcast, this happened.
Yeah. So I think that was one of the problems. I don't know how we got to this topic, but
I think it's just because it's so easy, which brings me back to like the topic of another Star Wars podcast. It is so easy to get sucked into Star Wars conversation that you initially lose where you first started.
Yeah.
And I think you and I got off on that tangent when we were recording the Star Wars episode on your show. But that also brings me back to the title, which was your idea. And I think that you should explain, why is it called Another Star Wars Podcast?
Oh, I mean, there's a billion of them. You know, there's so many Star Wars podcasts. There's some good ones and there's some really bad ones. I hope this one isn't bad. I hope this one turns out okay. I hope people end up enjoying it. And the thing that's going to make this one a little bit different than your typical ones is like, I mean, I think you're probably more of a Star Wars dork than I. You can help explain some of the deeper storylines, arcs, and stuff like that. I just like it. I'm a fan of it. I would never consider myself like a Star Wars aficionado or somebody who knows everything about it. I just really like it. I like the storyline. I think it's interesting storytelling. It's a Western in space. You know, it's a cowboy movie in space, and I think that's a fascinating concept. And I think the Fall from Grace storyline is like a fun, interesting storyline. The hero falls and then rises up again type of thing. So I think our dichotomy, like the way we're gonna talk about it, is gonna it's not your typical two guys sitting in a room with their big glasses on with all their Star Wars paraphernalia behind them talking about every little detail. It's gonna be,
although I do have my fair share.
Yeah, you do, but it's not like you don't have a replica stormtrooper helmet and a replica Darth Vader lightsaber next to a prop that was used in the movie because these guys spent their life savings on it. No offense.
That's mostly because I'm too poor.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying but that's not what this is going to be. It's going to be a mix of like, it's going to be a mix of you know, some of the deeper details of the storyline, but also just like a fun surface level breakdown of the episodes, what we think's happening. But it's just another Star Wars podcast. We're not going to get into like Star Wars lore. Like, we're not going to get way too deep into it. We can sometimes. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a couple episodes where I'm like, where the hell did that guy come from? And you can help just explain it. But
oh, believe me, there will be plenty of that. When everything that was happening in Mando, it was tying in with what was going on in Clone Wars, you and I were just like, okay, well, when did that character meet that character? I'd be like, oh, well, this happened in Clone Wars season 3, episode 5.
Yeah. And then I have to go back and like rewatch them and stuff. Cause I don't remember all the details perfectly. I'm just here to like entertain it. So there's something for everyone. If you're really true, deep Star Wars loving fan, this show's for you. But also if you're just someone who kind of enjoys the movies and wants to learn more and wants to talk about it, wants to try to understand episode to episode, all the things that are coming out. If you're just new to Star Wars or you want to learn more about it, whatever it is, like, it's gonna have something for everyone. So we're gonna cover a lot of things here. And so it's just another Star Wars podcast, and it's gonna be fun, and we're gonna have fun making it. And there's so much cool content coming out to talk about. So
I think we're pretty much set for the next 6 months.
Yeah. I mean,
in terms of content, because then we got we're going to start with the announcement of our first series, which is going to start probably after this first episode premieres, but that is, and we're going to insert the logo in here somewhere, Bad Batch Breakdown. And we have a whole logo for it and everything. For those who don't know, the newest Star Wars series that's coming out is the Bad Batch series, which is Clone Wars Season 8, if we're going to be honest. And that comes out May 4th, which is next week, which is very exciting.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. And I think that maybe we could do like reaction episodes. Again, we're kind of just playing it by ear and seeing what happens with this podcast, because, it should be fun. We shouldn't take ourselves too seriously, but we're going to be looking at those episodes, kind of breaking it down, seeing what's going on post Clone Wars and what that world has looked like. But before we get into, the nitty gritty of that, do you have any expectations to get off the table before that show premieres and we start diving?
No. I mean, look, it's gonna be shorter episodes, probably 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. Sometimes we'll go over, I guess, but like it's just gonna be loosey-goosey. Talk about what we want to talk about the episodes, see how they relate to the other things, and just share our love for one of the most popular franchises of all time. So hopefully you guys stay and listen. But there's, like Melissa said, there's tons to talk about over the next couple of months. What's funny though too is actually a year ago last week was when I first started watching Clone Wars ever. So yeah, which is pretty funny.
I got him into that, by the way. That was me. Yeah. I told you,
True.
I was like, Matt, get into watching this show. It's so good.
True, you did, and you were right.
I feel like it's oddly appropriate that the sequel to Clone Wars is coming out on the 1-year anniversary of you watching Clone Wars. So that is very exciting.
It's true.
And I think it's, yeah, go ahead.
I just have more ammo of things to talk about now because that show explores so many different things. And I think it's going to be good to have this new one come out and then the one after that. I wish we could have started the show before the new season of Mando because that was some of the best TV I think I've ever seen.
Maybe we can do also like a re-examination, like, because I have a reaction video of our family reacting to Mando and that huge reveal, block out this part of the video, but Luke Skywalker. That was amazing, but I do kind of regret that. I regret not starting this sooner because it would have been fun to examine, the last season of Clone Wars as that was premiering, because I was having like a freak out over that. Like that was like everything I'd ever wanted from Star Wars, but I'm sure we'll find time to get into that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, this should be a fun ride and I hope you guys enjoy it. Before we close this off, do you have any expectations going into next week for Bad Batch? Any hopes for the series? Like any like, I hope it ties into this. I hope they explored this. Do you have any?
No, not really. The only thing I'm like, I think it's going to be interesting because that bounty hunter from Mandalorian is going to be in it. What's her name?
Fennec Shand.
Fennec. Tarkin's going to be in it, which is sick. I love Moff Tarkin. He's dope, and I'm excited about that. And I'm just excited how they see how his character kind of develops and turns into this guy from A New Hope that we know. I think that's going to be exciting. I don't really have any expectations, to be honest. I just think it's just another season of the Clone Wars, as far as I'm concerned. It's just what happens after, like Rex will be in it, I'm sure. So we don't know. I mean, if I've learned one thing over the last couple like episodes of the Star Wars content that's come out, the last couple things, is that they're getting better. They're getting better at like the fan service and having good surprises and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to go in saying, look, I trust they're going to do a good job. I trust it's going to be well done. And I trust there's going to be some good surprises and some new additions and some new stuff that we can kind of talk about. So I'm trying to go in with as little expectations as possible. The preview looks great. And I'm excited for it to come out so we can watch it.
Yeah, it should be.
What about you?
It should be good. I am. Okay. Did you watch the most recent trailer that came out 3 weeks ago? Like the newest? Okay. I am really excited for the timeline to be explored. We have never seen the transition from the Republic going and turning into the Empire. And I think that is just chock full of amazing stories that could happen.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see what happens to the cloning facility on Camino, like how the clones were decommissioned, because that, again, is not really a detailed explanation of how that actually happened.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, like so many people, and I should find a screen cap to like put this in here, but when the last Bad Batch trailer came out, literally everybody's comment was, "Oh my God, Rex."
Oh yeah.
And I was one of those people because like there had been rumors going around that like Rex and Ahsoka are gonna have appearances or cameos because sure, that too. But there were rumors coming out for a while that they were gonna be in the show, like they'd have a cameo or a small part. And when Rex showed up, I was like, that's it. I'm so hyped. I can't wait. Like I just need more of him because he's one of my favorite characters. So I'd have to say I'm really interested in the timeline, and I'm really interested to see how they make that transition from the Empire, or sorry, the Republic to the Empire, because we've never seen that before. Like that's completely unexplored territory.
And what ends up happening also, with these guys.
Yeah, and how this ties into the Mandalorian. You know, because they're clearly gonna tie some threads. So I'm most excited to see how they make that transition from.
It'd be interesting if like even Mando made a cameo as like a, you know, they bring him in as a cartoon or something. Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be so amazing. See, I'm excited for that. I love how Star Wars is weaving the animated with the live action, and they're going, this is all the same story. This is the same story. You're just seeing it in different mediums. Like that's great. And I'm so excited about it. But hopefully you guys will stick around and see where this goes. It should be good. We're super excited. Again, Bad Batch breakdown will start either next week or the week after, just depending on our schedules and how we can get this worked out. But we are so excited to get started on this series and just talk Star Wars.
Yeah, go like, subscribe on YouTube and the podcast channel if you like it. Here. Give us a shot. Check us out. We'll be here for you guys every week. But yeah, I'm excited about this. Anything else you want to add, Lizzie?
Let's add our handle. I believe I started an Instagram. I started a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is just another Star Wars podcast. So give us a search and subscribe. Our first episode will be up there soon. And on Instagram, we are star_wars_pod. And it's just another Star Wars podcast. We'll be putting up some stuff there. Give us a like, a subscription, and a follow. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the first episode of Bad Batch Breakdown.